Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. I'm Daniel Berger. This week we have a very special guest, Lisa Cousins, who, from time to time we like to have people that are not, specifically brokers or agents or things like that. And today we have Lisa, who is my solo photographer, videographer. She's in charge of my aerial shots, helps me out with all of my listings, and she does it all over Metro New York. She does more than houses, and we'll get into that as well. But Lisa has known people that I've known, so it's again through connections I've met Lisa. And once you met Lisa, you don't want to stop using Lisa because she does a great job. So with that, thank you, Lisa, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I have to say, this is my first podcast, so go easy on me.
I will go easy. I wanted to bring you on. Um, the idea and the concept of doing a book that I'm working um, and the podcast was just crazy things happen, on the way to the closing table. And you've certainly been a part of some of my crazy deals. Generally, I've tried my best to have the house cleaned up before I have to bring you in to do what you need to do, but that's not always the case. Do you have I have some crazy stories that we've had together. Certainly, again, as you take all my listing photos, the house that we had, the skulls and the guns and the porn, the other house that had the porn, generally it's clean by the time you get there, but it's not always the case. I know that we've done a few houses where we had to sell the house because marriage is breaking up and having disgruntled people in the house, during the shoot and trying to deal with that. But give me like a crazy story, whether it's from working with me or someone else of being inside a house for a listing of, for a photo shoot when strange things are happening.
Well, I mean, I do always tease Danny about like making me go into the creepiest basements, like whether there's potentially standing water or critters down there or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, I have to like hike
That
down
was
to.
That was well, yeah, that was a recent one where I actually was out of town. We had to, it was like one of these, it was a reverse mortgage. We had to get the house on the market. And I feel really bad because generally I don't send Lisa into houses alone. I generally try to be there because there's work, that can you move this? Can we move that? A vacant house potentially, but generally I'm always there. But this was one case that I couldn't be there, and I was like, Lisa, there's standing water in the basement, and it's probably sewer based, so it's probably smelly too.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm wearing shoes, and I'm like, no, 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 you need to be wearing boots, So that was certainly, but you got there, and I mean the owner, they're lovely people, right? So the
And
shit was
Diego,
only
Diego, Diego was there to meet me. He was wonderful too.
Right. So we had one of our contractors who was actually trying to help fix this sewer problem was there as well. But so that's a great example. You go to a house, people are living in it. We have to get that house on the market as quickly as possible. And you know what? Not every house that you get to is in museum shape by the time you get there. So how do you work with that when you have people that's their things, they've lived in the house for over 45 years, yet you're trying to declutter as you take pictures so that you can at least have presentable pictures on the listing.
Well, first of all, I empathize with them because we all have stuff, and like I come home from I tell people I come home from every shoots, especially if it was like in pristine condition. And I unfortunately like lace into my family, like, we have too much stuff and clutter and everybody pick up your stuff. I mean, we're all living in our homes. And so I totally empathize with them if they, and a lot of those times too, like they have spent days, if not weeks, cleaning up, and it still isn't in pristine. Or, I mean, some people have a lot of stuff. So we work together, right? And we kind of like move things from room to room. Um, and honestly, now with the power of what's available in Photoshop and in post editing, I can really, take out a lot of things and make something look really, good in the post process if we can't, move stuff around. And then also,
I mean, that's
with the editing, it's makes it easier. I'm happy to tell people, no, you can leave that stuff there. That's fine. Like, I know I can get that. Like, everybody's stressed out and they're like, already feeling, the angst of packing and moving and all that stuff. So anything I could do to make it easier for them is
I mean,
yeah.
it's certainly intrusive when we're coming in to try to sell people's homes. Again, not everyone's selling the homes because they just got like a promotion. They're moving to a bigger house because of all this new money they're earning, right? It's generally somebody passed, they're downsizing, taxes are too high, so in those cases, it certainly we have to, we don't want to come in as the intrusion. And I think while it's clearly much easier to get to a house that's in museum shape and pristine, that's not that's not reality. And I'm the same way. You and I worked on we did outside Photoshop shoots last week, with the drone because we knew that as we're coming into more of the fall, winter season, we wanted to have outside pictures with with the greenery and all of that, and we couldn't do inside because the house wasn't ready yet. And it's a stressful situation. So, we did what we had to do with taking the outside pictures now, and we can do the inside pictures in 3 weeks, in a month, whenever it takes. So, I think that's something that's important too, is to try to understand, who our clients are. Our clients are the people selling houses, and how we can make it easier for them.
Yeah, and even the people that do have their houses in tip-top shape, they, by the time I get there, they've been busting their butt for weeks, doing that, and they're exhausted. And they've also put a lot of effort into making it look great. So they're very, conscientious. They're like, if anything needs to be moved, and what can I do? And I just like, oh my God, it looks fabulous. Go sit down and put your feet up, like take a break. Yeah. And Danny, you are the same way. You're very empathetic. You're very, you go the extra mile for your clients.
We also have to realize that these pictures are going to go on the internet, and once something's on the internet, you can't take them off. They're always there. And so, and that's what you do a good job of. Sometimes there are personal pictures on the walls. Try to not put them up, or photoshopping is a great thing. We use photoshopping to protect people, right? In the sense of not having certain pictures up that they don't, no need to be in the listing, so we can Photoshop things out. And it is, sometimes people just can't move certain things, and so it is great to see, when I love when you're like, yeah, don't worry about that, I can take care of that. So that's clearly helpful. So yeah, so that kind of certainly helps. But there's got to be some other stories
Oh
that
yeah.
you know that
One of
you
my
have.
favorite one of my favorite stories that I tell, I like to share. And I'll move stuff. I get right in there. I mean, I've rolled up rugs, I've dragged a mattress, like whatever has to be done. But there was this one multifamily house in I think it was in Mount Vernon, and it was big, and each of the apartments was big. And one of the apartments, I think it was a firefighter, from the gear in his, in his apartment. It looked like but he was out of town. And I don't even know. I don't think he knew that we were coming to take pictures, or any of them knew. And
I
in the
know this.
kitchen was like a rack, like one of those drying racks of all of his underwear, like right there in the kitchen, like drying his laundry. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna move that. I'm not gonna, that's
I,
just
I,
gonna, I'll see what I can
I'm
do in
pretty sure
Photoshop.
I'm pretty sure I was the one that moved the underwear, and that house was in Yonkers. So that was a four family house in Yonkers that we did we did, and that was an interesting deal. That's probably going to be in the book, and at some point talking about that. We got that off market and put that house. But yeah, that firefighter it was like a shrine to 9/11 and other things. And you know what? He always allowed us to show, and it was really, it was nice. But yes, when you're going up there and someone has their undies on the drying rack in the kitchen,
In the
um,
kitchen.
there's no reason to put that on the internet. So I did touch I'm assuming it was clean underwear, so I didn't really have a problem with it. But you're right. That is an example of, and then also we want to make sure that we're putting things back into the place that it was before, because it's a little bit like no harm, no foul, but like, the guy doesn't need to come back. You're right. He might not have known we came in, or whatever, but like, let's at least respect people's property
Yeah.
and put it back. So
I
yeah,
mean,
that was
when we're in the kitchen, we're always like finding places to like hide things and putting stuff in the oven. And I'm like, we got to remember to let them know
ex
that their cutting board and all of their oven mitts are in the oven. Like, don't preheat the oven. Everything's gonna
but
go
we're pretty
blank.
good at putting as much of that stuff back. And certainly you and I have been known to take pictures of what it was before. So when we move it and then we can put it back, we're doing our best to try to put it back.
Yeah,
Um,
that's smart.
so so we certainly try to do that. You know, you do other things besides house pictures. I've seen you have some you've done some photo shoots of some like really nice sports cars. How tell me a little bit about some of the other shoots you do and how they're a little bit different.
Yeah, so I do photograph exotic cars, mostly for this website called Bring a Trailer, where I guess these guys, you know, they're of the ilk where they have like a super nice, exotic car for 6 months, and then they're done, had fun with it, and they want to try something else. So they're like constantly trading and churning. They're not like hanging on to cars. So like a lot of them are repeat customers, they like the work that I did before. And it's different in just the subject, that the subject matter. It's one object. I have to I get to do a lot more like detail shots. Like as a photographer, I'm a creative, and the real estate photographer, you're really just kind of trying to show the size of a space or how spaces are connected, and not necessarily like cute little details, unless even if a house has it. Like, we've shot some really charming, beautiful homes, but you just don't really need that beautiful shot with the blurred background of the fruit on the table for the MLS. Sometimes I will take those shots because some realtors like to use those for print material and social media. So I do like that little aspect of it where I can really take some creative photos, and they are, super nice sports cars. And I take a picture with my phone and send it to my boys and be like, this is mom's office today, sitting in the McLaren. It's pretty cool.
So are you more self-taught in your photography skills and learned as you go, or how did you come about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was, going back to high school, back in when we had a dark room and all that stuff, like, I was always into photography. And I, try to think back. I think I wanted to go to school for photography, and my father was like, no, it's not practical career. So I went for a business degree. But and then, like, life happened, and I had a whole big corporate career. Being a programmer, also self-taught. I went to school, but I got my degree in managed business management and finance, nothing to do with programming. But kind of taught myself that, and had that career. And then I circled back when I had my kids and they were little. I really kind of revisited photography because I was going to be the document document my family's my children's young years or whatever. Um, yeah, and then even when they were young, I was thinking about like, trying to make a go of it as a profession. But everything, I took to the typical route of doing wedding photography. Actually, like I was doing family portraits because my girlfriends liked the photos I took of my kids, so they were like, "Oh, do my family," and that kind of snowballed. But then those opportunities were really only on the weekends, and I was working in the corporate world during the week, and I had young children. I was like, "Okay, this is too much," just the timing wasn't right. Um, and so, yeah, so fast forward after 25 years with Nestle, the company I last worked for, I kind of retired from the corporate world. And I had planned to go into real estate photography and pick that back up again. And then COVID happened, and that kind of like propelled me into it because so the name of my company is Pano Snaps, and that's kind of like pano for like panoramic and snaps, for photos. But when COVID happened, a lot of realtors couldn't show homes. I think in New York State they couldn't physically show homes. I think in Connecticut they still could, but I don't even remember. But there was this huge need for these virtual tours, with the kind of walkthrough experience that you see on the internet if you go through, on Google. And so I kind of like, yeah, I got a scanner. I kind of taught myself how to do that, and that kind of like that paired with my photography. Those were my first two services that I kind of started out with. But there was like you remember a big mass influx from New York City of people moving to Westchester. I mean, back in those days, I was just telling someone I was doing like 4, 5, 6 shoots a day all week long. It was insane. Um, so I don't want to be that busy ever again. But I mean, it was also great because it put my feet to the fire right from the get-go, and I had tons of opportunity to like learn and hone my skill and get better at it.
So I think well, New York State really had it. You weren't allowed to show a home that people were living in it because you weren't allowed to bring people and there wasn't, there were phases, right? So it maybe was
Right.
the worst phase in the beginning and then it started getting better. But any home that was empty could be shown. And then the other issue was that a seller could always open their home for people. So, while what you said was true, I was able to, I'm always one to say, tell me what the rule of the law is, and I'll follow it, but I might be very creative in following it. So an example, like my example would have been, you could still set up showings, you just weren't allowed to go inside the house with them. Um, and so, I might have had somewhere. That's kind of when realtors actually stopped driving people around, right? So it used to be you would always go meet somewhere, you would drive to see all the houses, and then you drop them off at their house. Really led to because you didn't know where people were, you didn't want to get them sick. You didn't want them to get you sick with masks and all that. So that's really when people started driving themselves. And so I actually would do showings where I might have 6 showings where I'm driving with them, but I might not be in the house. I think a realtor was allowed in the house as long as the owner let you in because the rule was like a realtor couldn't take you in, but the owner could. So maybe we did it in shifts or whatever like that. So it was still possible, and certainly empty houses, you know, was certainly, maybe the realtor had to open it, but you wouldn't go in with them. So there was a lot of different ways that you got around that. Um, to still be compliant, but to get people because as you said, it was really, really, really busy. So
And I think it helped. I don't know, you tell me, but I think it helped having that virtual experience because people were still like very leery about going, even if they could, people were really freaked out about going out or going anywhere, especially like, oh, people are coming in and out of this house, like a lot of traffic in a home. So I think the virtual tours, I don't know, there seemed to be a big thing, more so back
It's
then.
certain. It's yeah. So always, we always. I love your videos because the videos are more like your artsiness of
Yeah.
what you're doing with the house. But the Matterport or the walkthrough. Um, I always like so that's a fair point. At that point, I would only do those, right? Like I would make sure that I would do that every single time. Now, necessarily, some people view it, some people don't. The one reason why I probably use them less now is because um, the way that the websites take the listings, you can only really have either a video or that. So it's kind of like I rather have the artsy video because in today's day and age, not always, but most people are going into the house. I feel like, it's you don't necessarily need it, but those and it also depends, right? Younger people are probably more into technology and are more into to wanting those. But that is what's good is that with technology you're able to more enhance look seeing at a house. I think your job is more important now than probably what it was 20 years ago, where 20 years ago when you wanted to see houses, you would go into a brick and mortar building in a mall or a strip mall, and you'd meet with an agent and they would flip through like a book of like, the listing would be like inside like a plastic sheet and the key would be in there, right? So it's kind of like oh yeah, we have these six keys, we have the keys. What houses do we want to see? And you would probably stay very close to only one town. You would go with that town's broker, or and then you would see the house there. If you want to go to another town, you would have to go maybe to another broker because you'd have to get their keys that are in their book and their brick and mortar. So it's really the internet has really made things so much more open where you can see stuff. So, we leverage your pictures so much more now, in my belief, because by the time someone clicks on a house and wants to see it, they've already looked at 80 houses online, right? So the time that so your pictures are important for a few reasons. One, to show what the house is, but really to be accurate. And that's one thing that you do really well is that we don't want like when we're talking about photoshopping, we're photoshopping really of more people's private things. We're not photoshopping like potentially cracks in the wall or things like you don't want to make the house look three times better than it is because when someone comes in, they're going to be like, this isn't the house, this is not how the house is described. And then there's kind of like a oh, and then you're wasting everyone's time, right? So it's much better to have great pictures that accurately depict what the house looks like. You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I mentioned Photoshop, I mentioned more like you could leave the dishes in the sink. I could get those dishes out, or leave your coffee cup or whatever, like small things like that. And and if we're gonna do anything like, oh, the grass, the front lawn is like it's all dirt and no grass, but they're about to seed it and it's going to be a full lawn, we might put grass there. Or if they're going to be repainting this wall, but for the photos, because you're here now, can you like touch up, hooks and nails in the wall, things like that. So only if they're going to be making that enhancement, in the future or fixing something would we ever like do something, just because, like this is the marketing material for like, their biggest asset probably.
I think it's also fair though, like so landscaping is a good picture. Is that we have one where maybe construction's still being done or whatever. You it's good to still have that, but then you just identify in the photo that it's staged, right? It's the same thing with um with rooms that you virtually stage. So that's another interesting thing is that, you know, I have some clients, some investors that love to stage houses, and while staging does make the house look better. You and I just did one recently in Katona. Um, the stage pictures, I mean, the real the stage does make it look better, makes your pictures pop. But we also have options of doing virtual staging. So talk to me about some of the virtual staging that you do.
I think the virtual staging is like, it is beneficial. Like that house in Katona you just mentioned, she had it physically staged. And I don't even have, the whole place was physically staged. So many, I don't know how many rooms that was. And I have no idea what that cost. I'm sure it's expensive. But it to
It's
that
it's
point,
it's it's generally so to stage a house can be somewhere from like 2,500 to $8,000, right? Because it depends on what furniture, how many rooms you have, and how long you need the furniture.
right.
So it's not cheap.
Right. And she had the whole house. It wasn't like a room or two. She did the whole house. It was a small house, but like every room was staged and it looked beautiful. And the benefit though is that when people come to that house, they will see like it'll still look like that. So when I do the virtual staging, again, we label those photos. These are this for just gives you, and I usually, I think you put them in the lineup on the website too. Like here it is empty, and the next picture is, oh, here it is. So they know that it's empty, and here's the concept picture, and just to give them an idea of like where your TV could go or how your furniture could look and how just how to use the space. Um, and that ties into like the floor plan, that I do. It's not a floor plan that you want to like, take to an architect with the accuracy of building something, but it gives people the dimensions, fairly accurate dimensions, so they know, is my couch going to fit here, or is my bed going to fit in this room?
What percent of your agents that hire you use floor plans?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that that's to me that's almost more important than some of the pictures. And I actually have right now a multifamily that I'm trying to get to market, but it has like 4 or 5 tenants. It's very difficult. I'm like, I I was telling the owner, I mean, the pictures inside are less important. I'd like to have them, but if there's a thing that like they just can't get the buy-in of the tenants, the I would just do the outside of the house and floor plans because that gives you a depiction of, oh, okay, so there's 2 bedrooms, there's a bathroom, this is the
Right.
configuration. So my view is that's extremely important. The floor plan, it's funny because we bury it in the back. It's in the back of the photos, right? But it's one of those more important things. A lot of people are like, oh, I have a credenza, I have a bed, I have a desk. Will it fit in the room? Um, so that's probably one of the most useful tools is having a floor plan that you're able to create.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
What percent of the people do videos?
It's funny. I have some age brokerages that like that's the kind of like package there. This is what they offer to like every single client. So they do photos, floor plan, and video. Um, and this one brokerage in Norwalk, she's in Norwalk, but she said, statistically that it sells more listing or it gets more viewership, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I think you hear that a lot for just anything that you want to purchase online, like something with a video. Even if you had like an Etsy shop, like I don't know how you're gonna have a video about a t-shirt or something, but somehow the algorithm knows that you have a video and it like moves it up in the listing. I don't know.
So for me, generally I'm doing it on a house for the most part. Um, it is an added expense, but also it's an added expense because it takes you how much it takes you time.
Yeah.
Like, so like how long does it take you? So we just did a place up in Somers in Heritage Hills, 3 bed, 2 bath. How long does something like that take you to from shooting the video to actually editing it and having it, adding the music and having it ready to go? How long does that take you?
Um, Capturing the footage goes pretty quickly. I'm just getting a lot of little snippets, because they're each going to kind of like blend into each other relatively quickly, so I don't have to grab like a lot of footage of the kitchen. I just get like I've kind of got my workflow down. But building it out on the back end, it's probably takes about an hour and a half. Um,
So if
yeah, I got to find the right music. And I do want to say one little added extra good thing about doing the video as opposed to Matterport. Like the Matterport, once a house sells, then we take the Matterport offline. Clients also kind of want that. They kind of want the same thing for the video. But the video is also depending, there have been people that we've done houses. There was a house, I forgot where we were. It was I think I feel like they're all friends of yours, Danny, but they definitely knew you and they had been in the house forever. And it was a charming little house. And like, so it's a keepsake. The video, like, it's like, and I'm thinking about that as I'm taking the video because I know like they've been there forever. And like this light fixture has probably been here for 30 years and they're gonna, so I could get a little detail shot of that. And yeah, so you could, it kind of be offered to your clients as like, a little something they could keep. Not even on, I don't even mean on YouTube. Like, here's the video, you can have save this. And I know I would like that. If I lived in a house for 30 years, I would like to keep a little piece of that history.
When you post it to YouTube, which is how where anyone clicks on it, it goes to that link, and you do that, it stays forever, which I like that as well. Is there a fee for you to post it, or is that or is it
No,
per no, you just
no fee.
you
Yeah,
YouTube just gives you the bandwidth to do that.
that's right. Yeah. And then,
Isn't it?
you've had clients that have come back and asked, I guess for privacy issues, like, hey, this video is still up there. Can you take it offline? And
Well,
unless
you
they
know, it's
ask,
funny.
I'm just
It
going to leave it
depends on.
there.
It also depends on who's asking, right? Because technically, if I'm representing the seller, they're allowed to, you wouldn't have to, technically you just because the
Oh, yeah.
buyer's like, that's my house, I don't want it out there, you don't have to do it. So sometimes someone might have particular reason why, and you can ask, but it's that's the whole point. And you can take it down on YouTube, but people could still have it, from other sources, I guess. But
Right.
yeah, that's an interesting thing is, you know, the owner of it is really the person. Well, I guess technically it's funny because we don't do any paperwork, but the person who is the previous owner is the one that really hired us to do it, gave us permission to do it. I then pay for it, which gives me access to it. But you're really the owner. I mean, you own your pictures and you right. So in the way that we do, not that I have an agreement with you, but
Yeah.
I is that technically you are the owner, you took the pictures, you're basically renting them to me, right? Is that the way that it legally works?
Yeah, it does. And like we've had instances too where another realtor has come on the scene and they've been given permission to use the photos that I took and vice versa, I'm sure,
Well,
for your own
that's also
listing.
why I love working with you because legally I don't own the pictures and I can't do that. But we do enough business together. So if there's a listing that decides that they want to go in a different direction, which happens very infrequently, but it has. Um, and then I would say, if my client is going, I generally tell my client that if you want to terminate the agreement, that no problem. I would like for you to at least reimburse me for the pictures and I'll give you access to the pictures. So sometimes they actually use those and other times they don't use those. You know, I would say that, it's probably better even for your business to allow them, A, because it's good for me, but you never know. You could always get another client there when someone sees, that it's you
Right.
that it's yours, and then they might say, so, in the end of the day, we're all about promoting each other and trying to help each other's business. So, for you to be a stickler, well, you certainly legally could, but for you to be a
Yeah.
stickler, A, it's not great for me, and B, you know, um, you know, I guess if it goes into Architectural Digest and they want, then maybe you want a credit or whatever your take is. But since that's never happening, or at
Not
least
yet.
mostly probably not happening, um, you know, um, that's how we kind of pay it forward and work all together. And you know, there are certainly other photographers. I get people who call me all the time. They want to do this, they want to do that, and I'm like, no, no, no. Like I want Lisa. I also want Lisa because I love that all I have to do is text you and, and you're like, you'll fit me in, we'll make it work. Having someone that's having the flexibility of doing it. And so my issue is I just have to plan my listings around your girls' weekends in Nashville and wherever else. Um,
It's
but
only
again,
happened like once. I remember
right.
one time
No,
and you were like,
you
all
know
right,
what?
I'll wait. I'm gonna wait.
Exactly. No, but that's also the point of communicating, right? So if I think that I have something coming up, so we see each other enough that you're letting me know if you're going away for something or whatever. But for the most part, it's working together. And for the most part, I can plan things, and it's, I'm not going to somewhere else If it would
Yeah,
have to
you're the
be
one that's always out of the country, not
uh,
me. You're always like jet setting
so
all over the world.
that was more in the past. It's been a little slow for that, but
We're playing
that's
golf in Scotland this weekend. Like, oh,
that was
okay.
last year. That was a year ago. So that's true. But that's good that you know that I'm all those places, because that means that we're still getting a lot of listings and we're still bringing business your way.
And I
And
know
all.
when I try to like finagle moving a day to like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and you're like completely inflexible, I'm like, you're golfing, aren't you? And he's like,
Well,
yeah.
if you want, I can send you my block times. But as the season's dying down in New York, that's really for me. I generally from November to March, that's never the case. So the other part, 6 months, yes. I try to get away a little bit, but as you know, we're always doing something. So it's kind of like if I don't do it, I would always be sitting in houses, putting in offers and working. But that's good. Um, do you, from a technology standpoint, do you think that the technology is going to be changing the way that we take pictures, list videos in the next near term, or is that something that, what do you see coming down the road?
I don't think it's going to be changing. I think it's just going to keep getting better. And just like with AI now, it's like crazy. Um, I tried to I don't really use that feature of Photoshop that much because I don't really need to, but you can literally like remove something from a room and ask Photoshop like to put something in there and say like, put in a plant with a little table and a chair. And it's crazy. Like it comes up with like three or four variations. I'm like, oh my God. Like the first time I tried that, I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's really wow. Um,
Well, that's
I even
certainly
like
good
I
because
think I did a log cabin for or log for one of your agents, and she wanted to kind of see like what would these walls look like if they had like drywall and they were like just white instead of like the log look. And I literally like selected a wall and said replace this with a just those words drywall painted with a light gray or something like that, and it did it. And I was like, oh my Lord, that's really crazy. So I just think it's getting better and better, just better and better, which will make it more efficient. It's just all about the workflow. It's a lot of editing. It's a big process on the back end
right.
with the
So
photos and the
if
video.
that AI can make it take less time, then your prices can, because basically you're charging for your time, and so you're going to be able to make things look different, right? Because maybe we'll have more or less boring shots and more shots like that. Um, again, that we can say it's you don't have to say it's AI generated, you just say it's staged, or this is what
Yeah.
it could look like, right? So yeah, that is that a lot. I know certainly a lot of people are using AI much more so, and will be, but I guess that's a great use of, how do you speed up the processing time, because to you that time is money, right? So
Yeah.
um you being able to use that technology. I'm still thinking though that you want to send a not an AI photographer, but an actual person into the house to take those pictures. That's more, it does seem like from an editing standpoint that there is time savings in order to do that. So yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah. And I do feel, I have two young sons, and as they like, venture out into their futures, I just kind of make them like, be cognizant of the career path that you choose, and is AI going to have any kind of effect? And not that I'm telling them to be a real estate photographer or a photographer like I am, but I really don't feel like this field is going to, really be that affected. It's going to again just make the workflow faster, but you still have to have a physical person go to that, specific location and take pictures. It's not going to be replaced with AI.
I know
Not in
that
my lifetime.
one of your sons is toying with the idea of being a tattoo artist, and so you would think that AI can certainly help with the design of certain tattoos from an art perspective, but I don't know if I really want to put my arm under a laser printer, right? And just
Right.
have AI just figure, just doing the needles, so
Which I've
it,
actually seen. I've seen videos where that sort of is out there. I'm like, yeah, I would not, no way do
it
that. And also like AI on the computer and doing the creating the design but actually physically putting it on somebody's skin and the shading and having that whole ability, that's going to be in that person's hand, like not, I just printed out a really cool image. Like, okay, now can you actually draw that and like make it look like that and everything? So,
Right. There's definitely the artistry of whether it's photography or tattoo artist, um, you know, even interior decorating, you could say that you could tell an AI to go do it, but it's probably, you know what, at some point you still need the person in the room to and understand, what's feasible. And so I still think that I think, it seems like computers will help us do our jobs better, but not necessarily replace us. I mean, I guess it's the same thing that if it was just opening a door, if my job was only opening a door, you don't need, you could, well, everyone could just put a punch code in. They could scan in with their eyeballs right at the house, so everyone would know who's in the house, and you can have cameras, but that's not, you need that personal touch.
absolutely.
Computers make things easier but don't necessarily replace. So I think but yeah, we want to use technology as much as we can to help communicate and help in the process. So that's interesting. Um, Anything else you think is like, in the next 3, 6 months, anything that you see? I mean, you talk to agents all the time. You're seeing all different agents from different companies. You know, what do you think the next 6 months is going to look like from buying and selling it in our, Metro New York market?
Well, in the Metro New York market, I know a lot of people spring and fall, I think. And well, not, yeah, really spring and fall, not so much summer, right? I think they're like the hot seasons because of the foliage changing. Everybody wants their photo. I've had homeowners, reach out to me directly to just come and photograph their exterior house because they're thinking about putting on their in the market in the winter, but they don't want, those austere winter photos. So it tends to pick up, because of that. And I don't know. I keep asking you. I'm hoping, I'm like, the interest rate came down or the rate came down. Do you think people are going to start? Because, it has kind of been a little bit slower. I mean, honestly, you have not slowed up at all. I think this is like, I've been shooting for you for 3 years now, I think. And I kind of tease you a little bit and say, like, all right, you're neck and neck with this other brokerage. But that other brokerage is like 3 or 4 people. And Danny does have other people, but most of the listings I do are his. So he's crushing it, and you're crushing it this year for sure.
What's interesting is and as we're getting towards the end of the year, people are always talking about planning. And I always laugh when I hear people planning on, how many listings they're going to do next year or how many purchases, whatever, because I'm like, you don't know. But just because I did 30 listings this year, that doesn't mean I want 10% more next year. I'm gonna do, 33 or 35 or whatever the number is, right? Because that doesn't make a listing. All I can really do is keep connecting with people, and when the time is right, they'll reach out to me. Because again, we don't know when people are going to pass. We don't know when people get transferred. So you want to always be top of mind with people, but from a budgeting standpoint, there's no way, like even for you, like how would you say, okay, I did 200 photo shoots this year and I want to grow my business. I mean, I guess, all you can really do is network with more people so that more people call you, but
Right.
of this, and for me, it's it's more my view is just do the right thing, keep working, moving it forward, you know um and maybe I won't do more next year than I did this year, but I don't know if that matters because like you said, it's been a little crazy the last couple of years with how much business we have to assume that the last 3 years um, are insane, and we might not hit those levels going forward. So that's why you kind of have to have like an infrastructure where if you're 60% of it, you're fine, because ultimately I can't force it to happen. But in the 8 years that I've been doing it, it just happens, right? It
Yeah.
happens because you dot I's, cross T's, you're blocking and tackling, you're doing all the, I do a podcast, I'm gonna write a book, my face is on wipes at CVS. all things that I can do to try to get in front of, as many people as possible. So when the time is right, I'm at least brought into the conversation. So,
I would
I would.
imagine too that a lot of your listings and your business, I believe, would come from word of mouth because, of course it is, but it's just like, hey, to know you is to love you, like, and like I, as a creative, like, I'm not a salesperson, right? I never, that was, I have other friends too that are entrepreneurs and they're, whatever their skill is, and they struggle because they are not a marketing person at all. And I'm totally, I get that. And early, I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe a year, I don't know, into doing this work, I realized like I didn't really have to sell myself or sell my product because I started viewing myself like you probably do too. I'm a problem solver, like, and not only am I helping you solve a problem, not even, I don't want to say a problem, but like, you're trying to sell a house. I'm a solution provider. So like you and the homeowner to me, I'm trying to make this house, this is again your marketing material for this property. So once I kind of had that mindset or that mindset shift, that I'm not like selling something, like, uh, I'm helping, I'm a solution provider, I'm a service person, and I am very service oriented. And that just became, and then it just kind of, my business just took off and kind of really grew from there.
It's funny that what you say is an interesting stereotype that a lot of people say, that selling's like a dirty word, and that, oh my God, we're selling. But you know what? Um, we're not, I don't view myself as a salesperson either, because I'm not someone that wants to buy a house already has made the decision that they want to buy. I'm a proactive solutions person as well, and I'm a connector, right? So I'm like, okay, you need to sell your house. I need to connect you with I mean, I'll do the background work of hooking up the photographer, getting the house ready. Sometimes houses aren't ready and we have to bring in a contractor to do whatever work it is, fixing some holes, doing some touch ups, or fixing a garage door, whatever it is, and connecting them with that person. They need in our area, mostly an attorney. So I'm going to connect them with people that we've worked with before, to get things to the finish line. So I don't view myself as selling. All I have to do is communicate with people of how working with me and the people that I bring to the table is going to be good. And that's where I really go to. I don't really sell it. I say, go check my Google and Zillow reviews, because I work the way that I've grown my business is really working towards, if I do everything proper, then when the sale is done and I send out that link for someone to do a review, I'm going to get a good review, because people are going to be like, he's always available, he was very helpful, he did this, that, and the other thing. So I mean, I don't really view it as selling.
Right.
But certainly, pictures is an important part. And so how I make myself look better again is to make sure that our listings have videos, have floor plans, and look good. Because many people who want to sell a house are going to look for other houses that are on the market that are similar and say, "Oh, this is presented in a professional manner." So I've certainly had people call me from past listings and ask me to come in and tell them what I'm about. So, um, and there are people that do. So I would save a lot of money if I used my telephone, which is really a computer, and took pictures. And there's probably a video thing that I could probably buy an app to try to fake a video where you just insert the 36 pictures and somehow they do something, but I wouldn't look professional. And so that's why working with you as the I mean, everything starts with the marketing of a house when I'm selling it. And if I'm not going to have good pictures and not going to have a good video and a floor plan, then I make myself look bad and the house looks bad.
I can relate to that because, and that's also not your skill set to do a video and to do the photos and all that. And like even for myself, I'm not an editor. Like I outsource, most of the editing of my photos to an editor. And I taught myself I'm big into like teaching myself how to do stuff, and it like even now after all this time, I try to edit photo. I even like play around with it. Like I'll get them back from an editor, and I'm like, all right, I want to see if I can make a photo look like theirs. And you know what? That's just I could spend hours, like screwing around trying to get my photos to look as good as theirs, or just like, hey, that's their wheelhouse, that's their skill set, and it frees up literally hours, and that's for one shoot. It would take me hours of my life back to either spend with my family or book another shoot. Like you could spend that time doing a video and photos, but you need to be out there helping people sell their homes and being that solution provider. And same with me. Like I need to be available to take more bookings and let the expert editors do what they do best that I cannot, no matter how hard I try, replicate. I will
Exactly.
say I used to use the same editor to like edit my videos, and they did a pretty good job. But that is like the creative thing, the creative ad doing those creative. Um, they never really saw my vision, and they never really produced the video like how I wanted it or envisioned it. So I kind of was like, you know what, I need to learn how to be on myself. And it takes time, but it's not impinging on my taking other bookings. It's not so much of a
Right.
off.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time today, Lisa. I appreciate you always answering the phone and texting me and being available and then investing your time and effort and making, my clients, which is then our clients, homes look look as it should, looking as best as we can with what we have, and it certainly goes a long way in the marketing effort, selling people's homes. So if I didn't know that we were 3 years. I thought to me it feels like it's more, but here's to the next 3 years, 6 years, 9 years of us finding houses of people that want to sell and taking pictures and getting to work together and doing that. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your expertise and thanks for coming on the show. Um, and for another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker, I'm Daniel Berger. Until next time, thank you all for listening in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me on the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.